Hey coders, welcome back to Coding Hub, and today we are blending the beauty of space with the power of code. Brace yourself for an out of this world experience as we create our own solar system using Pygame. Whether you are a coding pro or just curious, you are in for a treat. Grab your coding fuel and let's dive into this cosmic adventure together. And hey, if you haven't already hit that subscribe button to join our coding community, don't forget to give a thumbs up if you enjoyed today's journey. Ready to code the universe? Let's roll. Okay, so let us begin with our code. So firstly, we'll be importing few of the libraries which are required, like Pygame. Now it is a very famous library. After this, we'll be using the system module, and with this we'll be also using the math module. Now all of this are basically modules in Python, and modules are few of the predefined Python codes which are written by developers like you and me, and these codes are having few functionalities like classes, functions, variables, which we can directly inherit, or we can say we can directly use them by simply importing them. Okay, so it basically help us to access few of the pre-written codes which are predefined to do few of the functionalities. Right now we will be simply running this block. Now you might have few errors over here. Like over here I'm not getting any of that because I have already installed all of these libraries, or we can say module. Now if this particular modules are not installed in your system, you can simply refer to the Python documentation where you can simply install this Pygame system and math module. Okay, now the next thing will be to initialize the Pygame. For this we can simply say pygame dot we can say init. Now this will basically initialize our Pygame. Now, the next thing in this particular code will be to set the constants, and we are basically having few of the constants, and this things are necessary for us. Now, let us understand what are the constant. The first constants will be the height and width, we can say. So we'll be saying width, height. Now, this width and height will be basically, the window width and height where we'll be showing our solar system. Now we have to set our FPS, which is basically the frame rate. Now the next thing will be to to have few of the colors. For this we'll be setting their RGB colors over here. It is 255 255 for the white, and then we'll be also requiring a black one. And this black one, it is basically 0 comma 0 comma 0. So this is basically the values of red, green, blue in the RGB. Now the next thing will be to set the sun radius. It will basically help us to increase or decrease the radius of the sun. Now we'll be setting it to 50. Okay, and then we can simply run this code also. Now we are not getting any error, that means our code is working fine. Okay, so the next thing will be to draw our planets, and for this we'll be using functions. Now how to define a function? We can simply say def, and then we can name our function, which will be draw planets. Now you can learn more about functions in our Python tutorial videos, a playlist. You can follow that out. I will be linking that in the I button. Now let us have our parameters over here, which will be screen. This is basically the object of the screen. Now after this we'll be having color, which is basically a tuple. Now the next thing will be the radius of this this planet. Now the angle at which it will be rotating, and then we'll be having the orbit radius. And these are the basic important things upon which the movement, or we can say the drawing of the planet, will be dependent. Now the next thing over here which we'll be doing is that we'll be calculating the x and y coordinate, which will help us to position the planets in the 2D plane. Now over here, for calculating the coordinates, we'll be using the polar coordinate. For this we can simply say x equals int, and then it will be width, which we have predefined in our above blocks. Then we'll be having floor division. After this we'll be having this orbit you know orbit radius, I will say. And in this orbit radius, what we'll be doing is that we're basically multiplying this with the cos of, you know, the radian of the angle. So we can say math dot radians angle, and see how we are basically using the modules. Like over here we are basically using the math module, which is simplifying the process of calculating cos of an angle and calculating the radians. So this is how we basically use the modules. So these codes are pre-written and we are directly invoking them using the function call. Okay, now the next thing over here will be to have the same thing for the y coordinate, and we'll be simply copying out this code, and only few of the parameters will be changed over here. Like it will be y, and this height, this width will go to height, and we can simply say height, and over here the radian, it will be sine. Okay, so these are the basic things which will be updated, or we can say changed. Now the next thing will be to draw the planets, right? So we can simply say pygame dot draw dot circle. So it will basically draw the circles which are our planet. So it will be the screen object. Then we can simply say color, and then we can simply pass the coordinates, which will be x comma y, and then finally we'll be having our radius. Okay, so it is also done. Now we'll be simply returning the value of x and y for further calculation. And after doing all of this, what we have to do, we have to simply run this code block also. And see, we are not getting any error for now as we haven't called this function. Now, what we can do, we can move into the next part where we'll be basically drawing the orbit. Now, for drawing the orbit, we can define another function by using the def keyword, and we can simply say draw orbit. Now it will be basically accepting two parameters, which will be basically the screen object, or we can say the pygame screen object, and the orbit radius. Okay, now what will be here in this particular block? Now it will be pygame dot draw circle. So we are basically drawing a circle. Okay, now we'll be passing the screen object, and after this we'll be defining the color of this particular circle, which will be white, which we have already defined in our above code. Now we'll be defining the center of the circle, which will be basically floor division of width and height, we can simply say. So for this we'll be having floor division of width, and then we'll be having floor division of height, and after doing this we have to basically pass the orbit radius. So for this we'll be simply saying orbit radius, and finally what we can do, we can basically define the line border. Okay, so it will be basically the outline. Okay, and the width will be basically 1. And now what we can do, we can simply run this code block once, and it is also done. So till now what we have done, we have basically written a function which will basically draw the planet. Now we have also written a function to draw the orbit, and only one remaining thing is there left, which will be basically drawing the moon. Okay, so let us also create that particular function. Now for creating the function, we'll be again using the def keyword, and we can simply name our function as draw moon. Now it will be also accepting few parameters like the pygame screen object, the angle of the particular, the moon, the orbit radius of it. Now the next thing will be to get the planet x and planet y coordinate. After doing this, what we can do, we can simply calculate the x and y coordinate of the moon. For this, we can basically use the polar coordinate. Now we can simply say x equals int, and we can say planet, x plus orbit radius. Okay, and then we can simply multiply it with the math dot cos, you know and then we'll be basically converting the degree of the angle to radian, and for this we can simply say math dot radian. It will be basically radians, and then we'll be basically having the angle over here. Okay, so this is also somewhere done, and we'll be requiring this to be fixed. For this will be requiring this. Okay, now we are in the right place. It will be math.cos. Okay, now we have achieved this. Now what we can do, we can simply copy this out, you know, and we'll be doing the same for the y coordinate. Only few of the things will be changed. So it will be y, it will be, planet y, and then we'll be having this as sine. So we have done the same thing over here, and we are doing the same thing again over here. We are basically calculating the x and y coordinate of the moon using the polar coordinate. Similarly, we have done for the planet one. Okay. Now, the next thing which we have to do is basically draw this moon. Okay. For this, we have to simply say Pygame. Okay, and then we can simply say draw. Then we can simply have the circle over here, and in this circle we'll be basically passing the Pygame screen object. Now the next thing will be to specify the color of this particular circle, which will be white. Now the next thing will be to provide the orbital center, which will be basically calculated using finding the x and y coordinate of the planet, as the moon's center, it will be basically, the revolving center will be basically the center of the planet it will be revolving around. Okay, now the next thing will be to pass this x and y, and the next thing will be to pass, basically the, we can say, the width. Okay, okay, so we are done with the moon, and the next thing will be to run the simulation using creating a function which will be simulating our solar system. Okay, now for creating our simulate solar system function, we'll be again requiring a def keyword. Then we can simply say simulate, solar system. So this is basically a name of the function. You can use any name as per your preference. We'll be basically defining the screen by using the Pygame, so we can simply say Pygame dot display dot set, underscore mode, and then we can pass the width and the height. So it will be height. Okay. Okay, now these two are almost done. Now this will be basically in a circular bracket. Okay. Okay, so we are now done by setting our display. Now the next thing will be to display, to set the set caption, or we can say the caption of the display. And simply say Pygame dot display. Okay, it will be in small. Pygame dot display. Okay, and the next thing will be the set caption. Okay, and in this caption we can have anything like solar system simulation. Okay, so you can have any text over here. Now the next thing will be to set our Pygame clock for the FPS. We can simply say Pygame dot time dot clock. Okay, and we have done everything we require. Now the next thing will be to handle the quit event. For this we can simply say while true. So it will be basically while true, and inside this we'll be having a event handler, which will basically say Pygame dot event dot get. So it will get all the events, and then we can simply say if event dot type, you know equals Pygame dot quit. Okay, so if it is a Pygame quit event, we can simply say Pygame dot quit. Okay, and then finally we can say system.exit, so we can basically exit from the system. Okay, now the next thing will be to fill the color of the screen. So in this for indent line, we can simply come over here and we can say screen dot fill, and we can simply say black. Okay, so it will basically, set the screen color to black. Okay, now the next thing will be to draw our moon, or we can say the, let us begin by drawing the sun. We can say draw the sun. And over here, what we can do, we can simply say pygame dot draw dot circle, and then we can simply pass the screen object, pygame object, and then we can have the color, which will be basically this, and then we can have the width. So basically what we are doing over here, we are basically defining the center position, which will be basically the center of the the entire screen, and then it will be height 2 over here, and then finally we'll be passing the sun radius, which we have already defined earlier. So it will be sun radius. Okay, so we are done with this. Now let us start by drawing the orbits and planets. For this, we can simply come over here and then we can simply say pygame dot draw, or let us begin with saying that Mercury underscore x comma Mercury underscore y. Okay, so we can say this and we can simply say draw planet, and in this we can simply say screen comma, we have to just pass the RGB color of 169 comma, we can say 169 comma 169. Okay, now the next thing will be, so we can look into the above code. Now the next thing will be to pass the radius. Let us consider a radius of 5. Then the next thing will be to pass this particular thing over here, which was basically our angle, and then the orbit radius. For angle, what we can do, we can simply say pygame dot time dot get underscore ticks, and then we can basically multiply it with 0.1. Okay, and then we'll be having the radius, which will be 100. So we are done with this. Now let us draw the orbit. Okay, for this we'll be saying draw, okay, orbit screen comma 100. So this is basically starting. Okay, now we'll be having the same thing for Venus, so we can copy this out. We can say this, and it will be changed with Venus. Okay, so it will be Venus, and the same thing over here, which will be basically Venus, and then we have to change this values. So I'll be saying, let's suppose we change the first parameter to 255, and then we are basically having this 5, let increase it to 8, and then over here what we can do, we can change this value to somewhere around 007, and let us increase this to 150. Okay, so we have done drawing the orbit of Venus, and we have also done drawing the Venus itself. Okay, now the next thing will be to do the same for the Earth. We can copy this out, and we can simply come down and we can simply say this. Okay, so we have to again have the backspace over here, and this is basically for the Earth, and over here we can simply say Earth, and this value will be like 100, so it can be 150, right? Now it will be also Earth. Okay, so we are also done with this. Now let us change the by default values. We can simply say 0. So we are, the Earth is basically blue, so we can simply have only the blue element. So we can increase this to 255 over here. and this 8 we can increase it to 10, and this tick, we can update it to somewhere around 0.05, and then we can also increase the size by specifying it to 200. Okay, so we are also done with this. Now the next thing will be to draw the orbit of the particular moon, and with this we'll be also specifying the angle of the moon. Okay, let us go with this. So for this, what can we do? We basically can draw our orbit. For this, we can simply copy this code again, and the orbit will be somewhere around 200, we can say. So 200, and then what we can say moon angle, and we can say pygame dot time dot get underscore ticks, and then we can multiply it with 0.2. Okay, and after this we can basically draw the moon. Just a second. So now we can basically draw the moon. For this we can simply say draw moon, you know and we can simply have this screen over here, then moon angle, and then we can simply say 20 comma earth's x and earth y coordinate, for finding that particular point. Okay, now after doing this we are also done with drawing the moon. Now the next thing will be to have the same thing for other planets, like for the Mars and for Jupiter. Let us create that too. For this we can simply copy this out again, and we'll be using this for 2 times. So we can come down and we can have another one. Okay, now let us go with the moon, sorry, the Mars. Now it will be 300. You can increase it to 300. Now it will be Mars. It will be also Mars. And then we are basically drawing the planet. Let us change the values. So Mars is mostly red, so we can increase the red to full, and the others to a little bit low. Then we'll be reducing it to 7, and this we can simply go with 3. And let us also change this to 300. Okay, and for this what we can do, we can change it to 400. We can change this tick to 0.02. We can change this color to something different. Before this we can change this to 30, and let us change this color to 210180, and we can say 140. Okay, and then let us also update this to 400. Okay, so, and we have to also update this values. So it was basically Jupiter, so we can simply say Jupiter, and the same thing over here, so it will be Jupiter. Okay, let's indent it properly. Now we are done with this. Now the next thing will be to flip the display. So we can simply come over here and we can simply say pygame dot display dot flip. Okay, and then we can simply come over here and we can say clock dot tick, and we can simply say fps over here, and then we can finally run the simulation over here. So for this what we can do, firstly let us run this block also. Okay, let us check where we are having a problem over here. So it is saying that while true, in this particular, it is saying invalid syntax. Okay, so let us fix this particular point over here. For this, let us understand what is the problem. So this w will be small. Okay, so this will be small, and if we rerun this code, okay, now it is fine, right? Now the next thing will be to just invoke this function. So let us invoke this simulate solar system function over here. And now let us run our code. And upon running, we were able to achieve this cool looking solar system simulation, where we are having the sun, the orbits. With this we are also having the planets orbiting at their particular velocity. With this, we are also having this moon rotating around the earth, we can see. Now, if your code was not running or if you faced any error, let us recheck the code and you can compare it with mine. Okay, now firstly we imported this Pygame and system module. Okay, now after this we have this Pygame init, which basically initialize this Pygame. After this we were having the constants like width, height, FPS, white, black colors, the sun radius. Then we finally went with this draw planet method. Now after this we were having this draw orbit function. Then finally we were having this draw moon function, and then we were having this simulate solar system function where we define the screen, the screen object, the pygame display caption. After this we set the clock. Then we were handling the quit events using this particular thing. We filled the color to black of the background. Then we started by drawing the sun. Then after that we draw the Mercury. Then we have drawn the orbit, and the Venus. And then we have drawn the orbit of the Earth and Earth itself. We have next drawn the moon orbit. With this we have set in the moon angle, and then we have drawn the moon. Finally we have drawn the orbit of the Mars and the Mars itself. Then we drawed the orbit of the Jupiter and Jupiter itself. Then we have just flipped the display and we have basically set in the clock tick. Okay, and then we have finally called this simulate solar system, and upon running this we were able to get this. So this was the ultimate goal for this video, to achieve this simulation, and we were able to achieve this particular thing. If you faced any error while writing the code, or you was unable to understand any particular position in the code, you can simply comment down and I will try to reach you out as soon as possible. Till now, what you can do, you can subscribe to our channel, hit the bell icon, and share this video with your lovely one. It helps us a lot to stay motivated and create more content like this. Till then, have a great coding journey ahead.